Joyce Meyer, Caine. Caine, I believe, is Australian. Joyce Meyer, you would know who she is. That's probably why I'm hoping this is the last reveal that I'm gonna do in this series. I'm kind of tired of revealing these people, but it is a necessary thing that I had to do because it seems like people do not want to see or they do not have the ability, the possibility to discern because they do not know how to because. Now Joyce Meyer. I actually did not prepare a word for her and Christine Caine for them specifically. So I'm gonna have to wait to see what the spirit has to show me what it is that he wants me to do, say concerning these people. So I'm gonna get into their spirits. Already into Joyce Meyer's and Christine Caine. It seems that they share something common. I feel fatigue in my spirit. I feel tired, I feel drained. I feel fatigue, I feel tired, I feel drained. And then at the end of it, I see death. I see death. I see death. Now I would know, and many of you should realize, and perhaps that's where the link comes from. Many of the women ministers today, and I'm not saying all of them, have developed ministries or have used Catherine Kuhlman. We spoke about her as one of God's generals, or so-called, and she is an influencer of many of the women ministers today. As much as God has shown me in her spirit, there is a lot that is happening. But I just want to reveal a few things so that it doesn't look as if, yeah, it doesn't look too scary. And I don't want to reveal too much. Nevertheless, Catherine Kuhlman has influenced many of the female ministers today, including Joyce Meyer, including Christine Caine. But more so than that, because we follow the spirit, not the vessel. We follow the spirit, not the vessel. There's witchcraft behind Catherine Coleman. There's witchcraft behind Christine Caine. There's witchcraft behind Joyce Meyer. Witchcraft, not because they're women. Many of the other ministers, even TD Jakes, have spoken about this witchcraft behind them. Actually, I was supposed to reveal a new video on TD Jakes, but I thought I've already said enough. But I saw, having revealed Benny Hinn, and has been open to Benny Hinn's true spirits around him, TD Jakes. I saw Zebrage. Let's just say death. Let me not reveal the spirit to you, because if you look upon the spirit, you will die. The reason I didn't die, the reason I wouldn't die or did not die is because of grace. God protect me. The truth is the spirit is massive. Absolutely massive, absolutely dangerous. But nevertheless, and I'm sure there's also a link to Joyce Meyer and Christine Caine similar. It would be the reason why that word is coming now, concerning these two women. But yes, so if you are in their presence for their ministries, their preaching are great. How they've helped women and some other ministers around the world, female and male, is great. They have done a lot. They have done a lot. I acknowledge the work that they have done in the natural. They have influenced the Christian community for a long time. They have done a lot. However, by their fruits you shall know them, says the Lord. Now, when God even says by their fruits, it is not you those are not the fruits God is talking about, because God even says how, if you ask him for a gift, would he give you something evil or a serpent? When even you who are men, who are evil, when your child asks you for bread, would you not give them bread instead of a serpent or instead of a snake? I know I'm paraphrasing. But God says that even you men, in your evil states, know how to do good, but your spirits are evil. Know how to do good, but your spirits are evil. So they do good. They do a lot of good. Let me emphasize a lot of good. God says that if you have the books, because I'm seeing one of you has many of Joyce Meyer's books, again, you need to see the spirits behind those books. Often spirits is revealed. Look at those books again in the spirit, and the spirit that is emanating, even without reading them, just the spirits emanating from those books that you have. Because if you see what it has, you'll begin to realize that there's something not right here. Again, discernment is always key. So Joyce Meyer, witchcraft. Christine Caine, witchcraft. Many of the modern day witches already spoken about the sketches. Then witchcraft. There's death there. So again, when I was in a church in the spirit, I was being drained. My spirit was being drained. So your minds are being fed, but your spirits are dying. Let me put it, emphasize, just put that word. Your minds are being fed, your spirits are being drained and dying towards your deaths. Towards your deaths. Towards your days death. I took long term. I've got a feeling that they don't like me talking about you because things just happen now as I was speaking that are not natural. So I know that I'm poking at the bear or at the angry brother. I am poking something and they are seeing me and they are fighting back. It is well, doesn't matter. They're in witchcraft. I don't know where my video cut, so I can't really go back. They're in witchcraft, deep witchcraft. So again, I was saying, I know that you will testify of the goodness that they've done, the great things that they've done, the amount of women that they've helped, the shelters, the children, the giving, the children in Africa. I know I watch their shows. I know what they do. In the natural, I see their giftings and I see their gifts to men. But again, God is not impressed. I'm being drained. God is not impressed by those things that you do in the natural and assume and associate them with God. Their spirits are not with God. If their spirits are not with God, it does not matter what you do. At the end of the day, they will be fruitless because God is after your spirit, God is after your soul. So these people feed your souls, they replenish you, they give you. And by the way, this is also something you will notice, and perhaps not for all of them, but many of these mega churches, you will see the minister standing, preaching, and you will see, speaking about death, you will see people just sitting and watching and observing, and they go home and they do nothing. That is very dangerous if you also do that. Again, let me just go and reiterate, the person who's going to be listening to this and has all of J Meyer's books, don't be afraid. First of all, foremost, you, whatever you have learned is okay. I have learned much from these men of God as well. In the natural, my mind has been fed, so I have a lot of knowledge. But I also realize now that my spirit was never being developed. So my mind and my knowledge, and this is where you need to understand the difference between spirit and soul. My mind, my knowledge, my soul were replenished. So I was hearing things that I needed to hear. I was taught things that I needed to hear. But my spirit was not developing. My spirit was not developing. Why? Because your spirit is edified and fed by God's spirit, God's word, every word that proceeds out of God's mouth. So if somebody is speaking from God's point of view, your spirit will be edified because God's words are spirit. Even Jesus says, "My words are spirit and truth." So when you hear them and you receive them in the spirit and you receive them in truth. So your spirit gets developed, not just your mind, not just your soul. And that is what these mega churches are doing. They're feeding your soul. Your soul is happy, excitable. Your emotions get activated. You feel good about it. You feel inspired to do whatever it is that inspire you to do. But your spirit is not being edified and your relationship with God is not being deepened. Yes, they can take you to God's presence and tell you about God, and you might be inspired to worship God more. But God is not about being inspired or you being inspired to reach out to Him. God is about your spirit being with Him. And these people will not take your spirit there. Your soul is there. And I know some of you might disagree a little bit, but your souls will be taken up, but your spirits are not. And we understand in that situation, if your spirit is not with God, when you get to the other side, if you do die, or when you do die, and you're in a place of judgment, and God says, your spirit is not with me, you're going to go to where these ministers are going to end up, which is hell itself. Again, not a comfortable word, but I need to speak it blatantly, so that their words can actually touch your spirit and make you realize that I'm not saying this just for my own gain. I'm trying to help you to get saved. You're not saved. If you're listening to these ministers and your spirit is connected with them, you're not saved. They are not saved. They are not with God, which means you're not saved and your salvation is in danger. I spoke about Oral Roberts not being in heaven, which means that his followers and those who are carrying on with the spirit will also not end up in heaven. This thing is about salvation. This thing is about your soul. This thing is about salvation. This thing is about your soul. You need to be saved. Your spirit needs to be with God. You need to be saved. Your spirit needs to be God. Again, discern the word, pray about it, but at least hear it once so that you can question your devotion and you're devoted to these people. These men and women of God, these TD Jakes, these Joel Osteens of the world, you're devoted to them. This Joyce Meyer, the more I speak about it, the more she's trying to block me in the spirit. I can actually sense her. Anyway, there is witchcraft around her, so it's expected. So I'm just exposing some of those worms. This spirit is showing me worms now. I'm just exposing some of these things to say, don't end up in hell because of these people. Don't be devoted to any man of God. Learn from them, learn their teachings, but one, block their spirits. Two, ensure that your spirit is with God. You're the Sakabra. She's speaking to me in the spirit now. Your salvation rests with your Father. She's a witch. She is a witch. Don't be offended. Just listen to my words, which are spirit and truth. She is a witch and a strong one, as I'm now determining. This pro, I did not prepare this word. But again, if you stay in her church for long enough, your life force will be drained from you. Your power will be taken from you. And God's glory will be removed from you. She has no covering. She's not with God. Christian Caine has no covering. She's not with God. TD Jakes has no covering. He is not with God. All of these mega churches, many of them, I assure you, have no covering. They are not with God, which means you're not being protected, which means your salvation is at risk. Salvation is personal. So again, if you have been inspired by them, great. That's your natural man that has been fed. Let your spirit now go to God, hear from God, rest in God's presence. Again, you might say, but they have helped me to do that. And I will tell you, if you look at God's spirit looking down at you through these people, you'll begin to realize that you're missing the mark. if you look at yourself from God's spirit, God's point of view, through these people, as you're being mentored by them, you'll begin to see that you're being sheltered from his eyesight, that there's a dark cloud between him and you, covering you because of their presence, because of their spirits, because you're in their churches, because you're reading their books and not being fed by God's spirit. Again, it might be a hard word to swallow, but if you understand it from their point of view, you need to look at things from God's point of view, not from your own. Do not use your own understanding. Look at things from God's point of view, not from your own. So Christine Caine, and again, I'm not attacking women ministers in particular. I've been using these words to expose anybody and everybody. But these ones, these three, and I don't know why, and I think because Christine Caine has actually been to TGX Church, there's a link there somewhere. But these are dragons, these are witches, and they have done it so well. I shouldn't be impressed by it, but they really have done it so well that they have confused many and they have misled many, including myself at some point. But I'm doing this for my family because I know even they follow some of these big ministers, and I'm doing it for myself because really we need to expose these things so that we can start on good footing with God. Because if you are doing this, you're enmity to God because you're siding with evil, awares or unawares. You're siding with enemies of God, awares or unawares. So I need to do this on good footing so that you may present yourself holy and blameless before God. Again, they will teach you very well. Their teachings are great. I can emphasize that many a time because you've been taught well, but your spirits are being separated from God. Your spirits are being separated from God in these people's presence. Stay away from them. Be blessed.